Thank you for everybody being here today. We've got a full house, great opportunity to recognize some fantastic work, not just by St. Paul police officers, but more importantly, by citizens of our great city. But I just thought it's probably fitting for us just to take 1 second, if we can take a moment of silence just to remember the people that lost their lives and were injured in Boston. I think what I'll say after this will make sense to you, but if we can just take one moment of silence. I know that that's something that we're all thinking about, but one of the things that I did want to say is that the individual acts of heroism yesterday in Boston by EMS, emergency medical staff, police officers, firefighters, citizens, other runners, was just amazing. And that's why we're here today. We're here today to talk about amazing things that citizens do to make our city second to none. A very safe city and a city that I'm very proud of. Before we get into the actual awards, I'd like to introduce our mayor, Christopher Coleman. I think everybody knows Mayor Coleman here. He's been our mayor since 2005. He also was a city council member, and I can also tell you when I was a young officer here, he actually was in charge of District 7 Community Council as well, and lived in the Frogtown neighborhood. Mayor Coleman has always been committed to public safety here, and he realizes, like I do, that, you know what, to make a great city, you don't need a bunch of police officers, you need a bunch of great neighbors, and police officers working hand in hand together. And that's what makes our city so great, and those are the stories that you're going to hear in just a little bit. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you the Honorable Mayor Christopher B. Coleman.
I want to thank, first of all, the Chief for hosting this award and recognizing individuals that have really gone above and beyond the call of duty. Whether it's a citizen, a retired officer, an active duty officer, we have people in this community that are not afraid to step into the breach, that are not afraid to be a part of citizen policing, that are not afraid to be helpful when they can be helpful to save a life or to protect a situation where someone is stealing from someone or whatever it might be. We have folks that are willing to step up. And I expect that from our officers. They're trained to do that. They go through a lot of kind of repetitive training to know that when something happens and they need to step into the situation, that doesn't lessen what they do. It just means that they have a certain expertise. Just as we saw yesterday, and the Chief alluded to in Boston, where we saw the EMS and the police officers and all the folks that have been trained to step into a situation like, that is extraordinary. But I don't think anyone, no matter how much training you have, can think about a situation like what we saw yesterday. The horrible destruction that was caused by those bombs, the terrible tragedy that you see when there's a family that's been torn apart, the 8-year-old who lost his life, but also a sister and his mother that were seriously injured. We expect our professional folks, but it was the picture of the day for me was the picture of the folks that had clearly just gotten done running 26.2 miles, that were probably so exhausted they could barely stand, but jumping in and helping out where they could help out. The folks that were in nothing more than their running shorts and shoes, having just crossed that line, but knowing that they had to do something, knowing that they had to be a part of whatever they could do to save lives, to comfort the injured and do whatever. That's the spirit that we honor here today. That is what we recognize here today. The folks that are willing to help out at their own, at the risk of their own safety, at the risk of their own kind of, fears, the fact that they're exhausted but they're still willing to step into it. I think that is an incredible testament to who we are as a people. And no one exemplifies that better, in my mind, than the city of St. Paul. Every year we come together for the Chiefs Award. Every year we recognize individuals. I am reminded of what an incredible city this is, and it's a great city because of all of you that are willing to be a part of citizen policing, of helping out wherever is possible, helping out a neighbor in need. That is the spirit of St. Paul. That is what we honor here today. And to all the honorees, I want to just say thank you. Thank you for being a part of this great city and making it even better. Thank you.
On July 30th, 2012, Mr. Lance Forrest was at home with his mother watching television when he heard a noise coming from the kitchen. He went to investigate and found a stranger running from his living room into the kitchen. Mr. Forrest grabbed the stranger, but he was able to run out the door. Mr. Forrest caught him again in the driveway, and a struggle ensued. They both fell to the ground, and as Mr. Forrest grabbed the man's shirt, it ripped and he was able to break and run free. In bare feet, Mr. Forrest began to chase him through the neighborhood and eventually caught up to him. He grabbed a hold of the suspect in a courtyard of an apartment complex and flagged down an officer in the area. Fortunately, Mr. Forrest and his mother did not find anything missing from their home. Mr. Forrest displayed a great amount of courage when he did not hesitate to chase the suspect. He did not know if the suspect was armed or if he would attempt to cause him or others harm. The suspect was held accountable and arrested for burglary. Mr. Forrest, it's with my great pleasure I present you today with the Chief's Award. Let's give him a round of applause. On June 28, 2012, the Jolly family was hosting a garage sale. I'm glad my wife wasn't there. Someone assisting with the sale noticed a woman acting suspiciously. She had entered the home without permission and was found going through some DVDs. It was quickly determined that a wallet had gone missing from the purse of one of the garage sale helpers. The woman who had entered the home was confronted about the missing wallet. She denied taking it and walked to her truck where a female friend was waiting. Mr. Douglas Jolly and others attempted to surround the vehicle as the driver and her passenger prepared to drive away. The plan was to hold him there until police arrived on the scene, but the truck still inched forward. A neighbor, Mr. Thomas Foss, happened to be walking by with his dog and asked about the commotion. Once advised, he immediately stepped in to assist. The men convinced the driver to stop the truck. The passenger exited. Mr. Foss persuaded the driver to remove her keys from the ignition, but she refused to get out of the vehicle. Concerned that she would escape and possibly harm those that were standing near the truck, Mr. Foss leaned in and attempted to grab the keys through the open window. The driver became more resistant, and as she started the truck again, As she moved forward, Mr. Foss was thrown to the ground, and his dog was tragically struck by the rear wheels of the truck. I am so sorry to say that his dog did not make it due to her numerous injuries. Mr. Jolly managed to jump in the passenger side of the truck, remove the keys from the ignition, and take possession of the keys. When officers arrived, they arrested the two female suspects, and the stolen wallet was recovered. It was also discovered that the driver was wanted in another St. Paul burglary, and in addition, stolen items from South St. Paul were found in the vehicle as well. Without the courageous intervention by Mr. Jolly and Mr. Foss, the thieves would have escaped justice. Both of these men risked their own safety by preventing these suspects from leaving and possibly causing harm to other neighbors who stood nearby. For those of you that don't know, Mr. Thomas Foss is a proud retired St. Paul police officer. Sergeant Foss served as a dedicated member of our St. Paul Police Department from 1963 to 1998. Almost 38 years of service by Mr. Foss. He is one of the people that as a young officer, and some of us that are older here, looked up to on the job. And his actions such as these, he's being very humble because he got scraped up and hurt a little bit as well as he was thrown to the ground during this situation. And we just want to thank you for your actions, both you and Mr. Jolly. And it's with great pleasure and admiration for both of you, and I know for all of us, and so many retirees that I want to thank for being here in support of our brother officer, Brother Sergeant Tom Foss, present both of you with the Chief's Award for Valor. Let's give them both a loud round of applause. By the way, Sergeant Foss, I'm not sure why you didn't say anything here today, because I know as a young cop sitting in roll call, you had plenty to say to me back when but I'll forgive you, sir. I learned my lesson well. On October 27, 2012, Officer Garad Sahal and Officer Seth Wilson went to the Minnesota State Fairgrounds to speak to Officer Derek Hurling, who was working off duty at an event. Officer Hurling had some information for them about an auto theft report that they were investigating. A man at the event was speaking to Officer Hurling, and he suddenly collapsed. Officer Sahal and Hurling positioned the unconscious man and discovered that he had no pulse. Medics were immediately called, and Officer Sahal began CPR, continuing his efforts until the paramedics arrived. Medics were able to get the individual's heart started again with a defibrillator. The stricken man was transported to Regents Hospital, where he regained consciousness. I would like to note that at the time of this incident, Officer Sahal was on the street for less than 1 month as an officer. We are all very proud of the way that this new officer jumped in to lend assistance when someone quickly needed help. Now we're going to do this one a little different. I am going to present Officer Hurling and Officer Sahal with a life-saving award, but we have a special guest here this afternoon, who would also like to give a brief presentation. So, sir, if you would like to come up, and you're...
He doesn't remember anything of it.
And I'm trying to remember in his name.
Dennis.
Dennis. Dennis is here as a person who received the life-saving efforts by these officers. We're so humbled that you're here, sir, and you and your wife. Thank you very much.
And on behalf of us, without you, we would not be selling the city. Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you very much.
You know, David and Garad, without your quick response and actions, we don't know what would have happened. And I know that you're very happy with the results as well, sir. That's what we do. And that means that it gives me great pleasure to offer each of you with your first life-saving award. So one more round of applause for both officers. Real quick, senior officer.
First of all, thank you to everyone that took some time out of your day to come here and share this with us. Once again, Dennis, Janet, great to see you, buddy. I'd like to thank my wife and daughter, also for coming. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thanks, guys, for coming. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it.
On August 17, 2012, Commander David Corus was working security off-duty for the Minnesota Vikings. While patrolling the outdoor plaza, he observed a disturbance in the crowd, and he heard a woman who was yelling for help. He rushed over and found a man lying on his back, struggling to breathe. Commander Corus immediately called for medics and began to assess the individual. The man suddenly went unconscious. When Commander Corus did not find a pulse, he cleared the man's airway and began chest compressions. He worked on the man for several minutes before the medics took over. It was later determined that the man had suffered a heart attack, but due to the immediate response, the man survived. Commander Corus, your genuine concern, determination, and quick action saved this man's life. And with that, it gives me great pleasure to present you with your first life-saving award.
It's actually quite humbling, and I've been in public safety since 1976, and Gary, you and I are connected forever. And I appreciate the fact that you allowed me to help you, and that the chief and the city of St. Paul give me the privilege to serve, and that the Minnesota Vikings trust me enough to work on their grounds to keep them safe also. It's actually quite humbling. I can't believe that I was able to be just a part of that, but I'm just a little system, just this much of the chain. Marcia Panos taught me to do CPR just 6 months before that. The HCMC medics that came in that actually did the life-saving, all I did was just keep you there until they could take over, and it's just part of the system. So Gary, I want you to look around here. Like Tom Foss, he taught me how to be a sergeant. Dan Zebro is my sergeant. You're part of this family now too, okay?
You guys, I wouldn't be. For those of you who don't know, Dave was in firefighting and other things. He's a well-trained person in medical procedures. We've known that for a long time. A quick story, back some years ago when I was in charge of the force unit, a lot of years ago now, we had kind of a rough night one night on University Avenue, and this is back in the 90s. And a suspect who had had a gun and was in custody, actually, in handcuffs, got away and was running in the middle of University up and down the median. And I was sitting there as a sergeant, and I told everybody in this detail at the beginning of the night, nobody gets hurt. Nobody is going to get hurt tonight. And it's about 2 o'clock, the bars are closed, it's very busy, and all of a sudden this guy starts to run right towards me. So I'm like, I guess I got to run after him too. Nobody else is catching him. So I run, and I start to get my gait going, and as I'm running, another cop comes, trips me into a moving car. All I see is a car coming right at me. Luckily, I bounced off the driver door, put a big dent in the door, broke my wrist and some other things that I didn't realize at the time. But let's just say we had to go on after that. We captured the guy. We had other things to do. And my good friend at that time, Officer Corris, comes, bandages me up. He said, "Suck it up, get back out there, Sarge." And about 6 hours later, I go to the hospital. They're like, "What are you doing? You got a broken right wrist. You got a mess." Anyway, that's Dave. One message that we have from the day. Extraordinary or ordinary people that do extraordinary things to make this city just a great place. Great police officers, great citizens. So honored and humbled that our mayor is here with us. He is so committed to public safety. We are both very proud of all the recipients here today. We have cake, we have coffee, and please come up if we can get all the recipients to come up here so that people can shake your hand. We appreciate it. Thank you for taking time out of your day today. Thanks for what you do every day.
It's fancy. I'll tell you that.